拳が弱り、肉体が死すとも、我が恐怖の伝説は永遠に。To stand up and fight, no matter the odds. To uphold the law of Hokuto Shinken, no matter the challenge. To hear and obey the call of the heavens, no matter how severe. This is the destiny of the Fist of the North Star. For the Fist of the North Star franchise, in the period of time between 1995 and 2003, fate was cruel.
I know.
Then after the release of new Fist of the North Star, the heavens were finally merciful. The franchise proved that it could still entertain audiences while remaining true to its roots. The renewed interest in the series it generated led the creators to embark on a very ambitious new project. Up to this point, the series had already achieved a long history with 2 long television series, a full-length animated movie, a live-action film, and most recently an OVA miniseries. So what would this next project turn out to be? In what new direction could the series go? Well, it so happened that this new project, wide-ranging and ambitious though it was, decided to stay mostly close to its roots. The project turned out to be a 5-part film series, known as Fist of the North Star, Legends of the True Savior, which comprises 5 chapters covering 3 feature films which sandwich 2 OVAs. The careful observer can easily note once again the clear and conspicuous love from the creators of the character of Raoul, as not only does he receive top billing in 2 of the films, but they also happen to be 2 of the 3 feature-length films. Also clear and apparent upon viewing them is that the creators kept the concerns of both new and old school fans in mind, as each film to some degree or other pays tribute to previous iterations of the story, while at the same time each also introduces new elements or makes minor variations and new twists on older plot points. On the whole, the Legends of the True Savior series is an updated version of the original series, with many elements reimagined or seen from a different perspective. They were released over a 3-year period between 2006 and 2008, which coincided with the 25th anniversary of the original manga. But did such an ambitious undertaking live up to expectations? Yes. The first chapter in the series is entitled Raouden, Junai no Sho. A bit hard to translate perfectly, but basically meaning The Legend of Raoul, the chapter of love's sacrifice. The story's plot is basically a retelling of the Holy Emperor story arc from the original manga, wherein Kenshiro confronts the most powerful man from the school of Nanto Seiken, Souther of the command star of Shosei. The film opens up flashing back to one of the important events in the young life of Kenshiro. He is taken by his older brother Raoul to the Nanto school to undertake the Nanto 10-man challenge, an unforgiving ordeal where no matter the size or age of the challenger, who must take down 10 opponents, failure means death. Kenshiro, just a boy but clearly a gifted fighter, is fighting for his life under the stern and watchful eyes of Raoul, Souther, and another powerful Nanto fighter, Shu. Ken is about to defy the odds and win when he feels the call of Shu's aura, or ki. This prompts Shu to answer the call and be Ken's last opponent. However talented the young Kenshiro may be, he finds himself quickly overwhelmed by Shu, one of the 6 powerful Nanto Rokuseiken. Ken's older brother Toki is about to step in and save Ken, when Shu shocks everyone by sacrificing his own eyes to allow Kenshiro to leave the challenge with his life. It is then that the movie flashes forward to the present state of affairs, where the armies of the would-be conquerors, including both Souther and Raoul, are fighting for dominance over the blasted remnants of civilization. Mysteriously, Raoul, the most dreaded man in all the wastelands, avoids open confrontation with Souther. The reason? Souther's body holds a mystery. He cannot be hurt by Hokuto Shinken, the martial art of Kenshiro and Raoul. Kenshiro, by this point in the story, has already been through many trials and tribulations, and takes Bat and Lin to Bat's hometown, a small village with many little children. It is in need of protection from the armies of Souther, who are mandated to round up and enslave all of the children to build a holy pyramid for Souther. It is in this village that Ken meets one of the 2 new characters introduced into the story. Reina, a fierce swordswoman, along with her brother Soga, the other new character, are childhood friends of Raoul from the country of Shura, who are now his acting generals. Very early in the movie, an ailing Soga dies by Raoul's hand, in a scheme concocted to instill ultimate fear and compliance among the troops to get them ready for war against Souther. A heartbroken Reina, who is actually in love with Raoul, learns the level of sacrifice he is willing to make for conquest. Meanwhile, Kenshiro, while fighting the armies of Souther, once again meets Shu, discovering that the loss of his eyes makes little difference, as he is still an extremely powerful warrior and the strongest force of resistance against Souther.
聖帝サウザー様に逆らう裏切り者めが返り討ちにしてやらなんと聖剣乱世に散り己の星の宿命に生きるなんと六聖剣の一人人は私を盲目の闘将と呼ぶお前も乱世に野望をかける男かなんと乱れる時北と現る俺を倒そうという人間には全てこの剣で答えるのみならば答えてもらおうなんと白露剣奥義有言将この構えは気配が読めぬ盲目ゆえ私には貴様の剣に対する恐怖はない恐怖は人の気配となり敵に容易に間合いをつかませてしまうこれぞなんと六星白露剣の神髄烈脚空舞
Enraged by the poisoning of the children at the hands of Souther, Kenshiro seeks out and confronts the self-styled Holy Emperor, only to find that for the first time in his life, Hokuto Shinken doesn't work. It is from this first surprising defeat that Kenshiro must climb back, which culminates in one of the most epic and memorable fights in the series' history. Previously in the retrospective, I mentioned the 1986 animated Fist of the North Star movie as the second best movie for fans not very acclimated with the series to use as a good jump-in point. You are now looking at the best. This movie, from opening to closing, does just about everything right. The cast, the music, the visuals, and the writing all come together beautifully to tell a story that is very in character and in style to the world of Hokuto no Ken. One of the most successful elements of this film is the casting. Reina is voiced by Ko Shibasaki, an actress famous for movies Battle Royale and more recently 47 Ronin. She does an excellent job of portraying a character serious and strong, and yet ultimately hopeful and kind. Filling in the role of Kenshiro is Japanese superstar Hiroshi Abe. Abe is something of a Japanese Brad Pitt, whose leading man good looks and talent make him one of the most recognizable and marketable actors in Japan. But don't let his pretty boy good looks fool you. He does an excellent job of portraying the serious yet compassionate martial artist. Akio Otsuka, who provides the voice for Souther, also does a good job, but this is the one case where I find myself preferring the original voice of Banjo Ginga. There is nothing necessarily lacking about Otsuka. He performs all of Souther's famous lines well. But Ginga, to me, truly stands out as one of the lost treasures of the series. Remember, he is portraying a character who, rightfully, feels no intimidation from one of the most intimidating characters in fiction. Whereas Otsuka puts something of an overacting, dramatic spin on the character. Ginga's voice carries a very natural tone of command, appropriate to the character of Souther. But the real jewel in the crown for the cast, and one of the reasons I began this retrospective, is the debut of Takashi Ukaji in the role of Raoul. Comparing him to Kenji Utsumi, the original voice of Raoul, is a bit like apples to oranges. Utsumi did a fantastic job, but it was still back in the days when the story itself was in its growing stages. Seeing Ukaji's performance of Raoul is something like watching a virtuoso concert pianist. His every word and tone fits the character of Raoul perfectly. Simply put, Ukaji was born to play Raoul. His voice is powerful and stern. He speaks Raoul's archaic Japanese with natural fluency. And speaking of voices having a natural tone of command, listen to this speech, and even if you don't understand a word of Japanese, tell me it doesn't make you want to grab a bayonet and charge uphill into enemy fire.
良いか皆の者、敵を恐れ力なゆる者は前に出よ。この剣王がこの場で死を与えよう。ひとたび乱れ果てた大地に新しき秩序を生み出すのはこの拳に込められた力あるのみ。そしてその力を天は我に与えり、大義は我らの破行にあり。
And there's a very interesting reason why. Before he became a voice actor, Ukaji was a leader of one of the largest Bosozoku, or motorcycle gangs, in Japan. So he might very well have experience giving a speech like this in real life. Another great element very well done in this movie is the music. Again, bearing in mind fans both new and old, it mixes both many new compositions and tributes the nostalgic. The music does an excellent job of framing the emotions of the scenes in the movie.
私は芝を誇りに思っているのです。シュ。
No matter what those emotions are. The music was composed by veteran composer and pianist Yuki Kajiura, a big name in the Japanese music industry, famous for composing music for video games, anime, television, movies, and her own group and solo albums. Perhaps the secret to the passion behind her music is her personal love for the series and her clearly favorite character.
ご自身の好きなキャラクターとか。
Being that most of the Legends of the True Savior series is about retelling and rearranging the older stories, updating the visuals was a big priority. And much like the 1986 movie, this movie also does a great job of taking older scenes and keeping their essence the same while putting a new spin on them. Many touches being very artfully done. Notice also how the soldiers' uniforms maintain their consistency. The writing is perfectly in keeping with what fans of the original have come to expect. Straightforward and simple storytelling, mixed with elements of the ethereal, and always the severe path of the warrior. I also believe this first effort shows the consistency the world is known for, and even surprisingly subtle touches. Early on in the movie when Soga is killed, Reina mourns him by crying over a flute, a detail held consistent through the movie and in further iterations. And there is a subtle moment when Shiva, Shu's son, sacrifices himself to save Kenshiro. Right there. It's not explained, it's not dwelt on, it's not even pointed out, but it's there, rewarding fans with prior knowledge. But you may be asking, is this movie really so perfect? Didn't it underperform at the box office? Aren't there plot holes big enough to build a holy pyramid in? Why would a beautiful woman, a princess, allow herself to be killed in an elaborate scheme to temporarily boost morale? Why would someone use weak, unskilled children to build a pyramid? Especially when he has an army of strong, muscle-bound men. How can Hokuto Shinken not hurt Soudler's body? Wouldn't that be similar to if you used an unconventional weapon like a toilet plunger to beat someone in the face, and that person just turns to you and says, "Ha ha ha, your plunger style cannot harm my body"? All very fair points. As to the film underperforming, I believe this was a problem attributable to audience interests and a lack of effective advertising, rather than a reflection of the quality of the film itself, which is quite high. And as to the plot holes, honestly speaking, they are, and always have been, pretty well par for the course, as ever since the beginning days, Fist of the North Star can best be described as making perfect sense if you don't think about it too hard. As previously mentioned, the 1986 animated movie is a good jump-in point for new fans, except for the fact that it may spoil a bit too much of what happens in the series. The reason this movie is just that much better is that it covers just one story arc satisfyingly, and yet doesn't include certain important events, and doesn't spoil certain important details, which keeps the original anime worth watching. This movie stands as a classic in the library of Fist of the North Star, and a great start to the Legends of the True Savior series. Next up in the Legends of the True Savior series is Urea, or The Legend of Urea, an OVA with a running time of just over 1 hour. The story of The Legend of Urea, not quite related to the timing of the previous movie, mostly follows the character of Urea and the newly introduced character Toby, her dog, beginning from Urea's childhood before she had any contact with the schools of Hokuto and Nanto. Urea discovers that she has the gift to see the future, a power granted through her innate ability to hear the voice of the heavens. Tragically losing her parents in an airplane crash, Urea is taken by her new guardian Dama to the Hokuto school to live with Master Ryuken and his disciples as she learns to master her gift. Similar to Lin, Urea has closed off her heart to others and will not speak or show emotions. She chances to meet Kenshiro for the first time thanks to her dog, Toby. Again, like Lin, Kenshiro is the only one who can get Urea to open her heart. Though largely seen through the perspective of Urea, this movie follows and updates many classic scenes from the television series, like Kenshiro and Raoul's final test for the successorship of Hokuto Shinken, where they must face and be ready to fight a fierce snarling tiger, or the scene in which Kenshiro must fight an embittered and infuriated Jaggy.
Jaggy, 何の真似だ?
大体貴様が伝承者謎になれるわけがねえ。俺たちを差し置いてこんなバカな話はねえ。
But none perhaps more iconic than the fateful first confrontation between Kenshiro and Shin.
Yeah!
A confrontation that begins as Shin and his men interrupt a peaceful day being enjoyed by Urea and Kenshiro and Toby. There's something about that dog. It would be difficult to continue describing the remainder of the plot without giving away too much of what happens. So I'll suffice it to say that in general, this movie on the one hand has a lot to offer fans familiar with the series, as it recreates many events from the original series and shows them through a different perspective. Yet, on the other hand, it's hard to recommend this movie to a fan new to the series, as prior knowledge of it is almost essential to understand a lot of what is happening at any given time. And the fact that the movie lacks an action-packed climax, typical to the series. Just like Part 1 in the Legends of the True Savior series, in The Legend of Urea, the cast, the music, and the visuals are all of good, sometimes great quality. Ukaji, Abe and company all do the same great job, and the cast even includes a welcome return from veteran voice actor Daisuke Gori, known for playing prison warden Uyghur in the original series. Gori returns to voice one of the 5 Nanto chariot stars, Fudo the Mountain. And again, the art direction does a generally very good job of updating the visuals, adding subtle acting touches very much in line with the characters. And keeping uniforms and clothing fresh and yet consistent to the original. The Legend of Urea does a good job of being what it is, which is essentially a filling in of blanks between 2 theatrical movies. But fans not really aware of what it is going for might find themselves not sure of what to make of a climax-less action movie. This movie still has much to enjoy, but will likely mostly please the old fans rather than the new.
Toby. 宿命の犬 Toby.
That's not a mistranslation. He really said that. Toby, the dog which sounds like, and is, just a guy behind a microphone going, Toby, who in the original story was not a dog at all, but just a ball that Urea dropped. Toby has now become a dog of destiny. Join me next time for part 5, where we will conclude our look at the remaining 3 Legends of the True Savior movies.